Good morning, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we are going to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do the usual disclaimers, I'm going to start that you're going to hear probably a lot of throat clearing sounds or nose clearing sounds. That's because on fall mornings, my fall allergies are particularly bad. I know that these sounds are loud, but I do not have an edit button. So I'm just going to apologize for those in advance, all right? All right, so folks, if you are not familiar with the Stop the Shock campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, please look inside the description box. You're going to find all the pertinent links to both campaigns. In particular, I want you to take note of the article written by NeuroClastic, a small non for profit started by Autistics for Autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center's so called behavior modification program. Because the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center felt so threatened by this particular article that they have threatened them with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. So, folks, if you could, please read that article and share it on all the social medias. You'll also see linked in their NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case the JRC sees through with their threat. Trigger warning. When we speak about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, an agape boarding school for boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, folks, please go ahead and use those headphones, okay? Another trigger warning. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and we do speak on dark subjects. So if your child is 16 and younger and you are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is advised. Now, another rant about the conflict with Palestine versus Israel because I cannot help myself. One of the biggest problems in all of this is the knee jerk reactions, the emotional reactions. Now, hear me out. I'm not saying that seeing this cruelty and this massive scale of death shouldn't evoke emotion in you. It should. However, get some control over your emotions, folks. Because calling for the annihilation of an entire people is no answer either. Okay? And by the way, this knee jerk reaction to call everyone anti Semitic for daring showing an even a smidgen of compassion for the Palestinians is not doing anything for your cause. Okay? Just because I hate seeing human suffering, regardless of who it is, and I speak on it, just because I want to bring people back to some rationality, some sense, and some logic by saying that things that happen like this do not come out of left field, that doesn't make me an anti Semite. It makes me logical. It makes me someone who doesn't operate off of nothing but emotion. It means it's someone that I am someone who likes to take context into account. Okay? We're getting nowhere operating off of knee jerk reactions. You're throwing gasoline on a fire. And if you want any hope whatsoever of avoiding World War III, take your head out of your ass. Remove yourself from your echo chambers and take a look at this conflict as a whole. Okay? Because I've said it before and I'll probably end up doing a video on it because I'm just that done with humanity. Radicalization doesn't come out of nowhere. Okay? There's a context to everything. I am not an anti Semite for pointing that out. Nor am I one simply because I'm sitting here trying to tell you that if you are sitting here cheering on the bombardment, yeah. And one of the most callous things I've seen online in all of this from so called good Christian people is blame Hamas. How cold and unfeeling of a human being can you possibly be? You see pictures of children crying, being pulled out of rubble. People who don't have the means, like me and you, to be able to GTFO out of a basic war situation. And your answer, your response to their pain, their suffering, their whole families have just died. They are quite lucky to even still be alive. And your answer is blame Hamas. There's something wrong with you. There's something very wrong with you. Sorry. Pisses me off. I'm probably going to lose subscribers over this, but I don't care. You've all known me from day one. I speak what is on my mind. I don't care whether it's popular or not. I don't care if it means that I'm going to be attacked or not. I am who I am, and I apologize to no one. Let's jump into it, shall we? ABA taught, no, we went over this yesterday. Here's a particular quote I want you to pay attention to. Speaking of torture, if you want to know why I have empathy for the Palestinians, who have I been fighting for over a decade? Think on it. And how does the media portray us? They demonize us, they vilify us, paint us as monsters. Makes you think as to why those of us who are like me would search for context instead of knee jerk reacting, doesn't it? Because ABA does not see us as fully human. We are not allowed self determination unless it is really self but compliant with the therapist's determination to change us. See, this is what I'm talking about right here. They don't feel we have the right to self determination. They don't feel like we have a right to have a voice in regards to our own treatment program, unless it is in agreement with them that we need to become more neurotypical like. All right? Because ABA does not see us as fully human, we're not allowed self determination unless it's really self but compliant with the therapist's determination to change us, said Sequenzia poet. Mechanic and academic scholar Jayla Mudridge recounts 12 years of ABA in an interview with Neurodiversity News. I can firmly say that ABA stole my childhood, and the resulting professionally diagnosed complex post traumatic stress disorder stole my adulthood. ABA groomed me for every trauma I endured later in my life. Exactly. When you start with a basis of a program that essentially doesn't eat, we're basically lower than subhuman beings here, folks. A premise that does not believe we have the right to self determination, let alone the right to a voice, unless it is towing the party line, that's going to cause some PTSD in the future, folks. At its base, it dehumanizes us. At its base, it teaches us self hatred and self loathing. At its base, it teaches us that we are unworthy of love, affection, friendships, jobs, going out there and living our lives as we are. But we must change every little thing about ourselves. And only then are we be able to be treated like human beings, but only as long as we tote that party line. Because the minute we speak out, yeah, that. Moultridge is a survivor of the Judge Rotenberg Center, a residential school for ABA in Massachusetts that permitted electrocutions until March 2020. Remember, that has been overturned, and they are now continuing while we speak. I still wake up with the smell of my own flesh burning in my nostrils some nights, they said. These harrowing accounts of ABA are not isolated or unique, yet they are often drowned out by the air of cult like reverence ABA garners from neurotypical parents and BACB, one that seems to marginalize every other approach. And they do, kids. Remember, I've worked in this field. I would know. They push early ABA intervention in the same way that the worst of evangelical preachers starts with fire and brimstone. Okay? They literally make parents feel like if they don't get their kids into ABA that they will never be able to have a real or fulfilling life as they grow up. Yeah, that. And the problem is a lot of these parents buy the selling points hook, line, and sinker. And they will attack viciously. I've been doxxed. Lyric has been doxxed. I've been threatened. I've had my family threatened. The good majority of us have. Okay? I've had people trying to deny me my rights as given to me by HIPAA, by individuals who want to shout down any opposition to ABA because they don't want to hear anything else. They don't care if there's other approaches that take my consent and my opinion over my own life into account. Because we are dealing with individuals and parents who have been brainwashed who believe that we do not have the capacity to be our own voice, who do not believe that we have the faculties and the judgment to be able to make good judgment calls when it comes to our own treatment program. Okay? They don't believe we can do these things. All right? Autistic people should be included in a meaningful way. There's been a missed opportunity, says Elfert, which itself seems out of touch. Autistic people have informed the public of their ABA related trauma for years, but are routinely silenced and ignored by those in power. over and over and over and over again, folks. Now, I made some headway in my state, but I believe a lot of the headway that I actually was able to make had more to do with who I'm related to, my uncle in particular, who's reasonably wealthy and holds a good deal amount of power, at least in the southwest region of my state. And number two, that I'm so good at playing the doll. I'm so good at playing their game that, you know, I was able to at least make some headway in this state, where the predominant approach has become not ABA, but person centered planning. Once we rolled it out in a larger capacity and we were able to show by data it works. But by and large, folks, on a global and national scale, we get silenced. No one wants to hear about person centered planning. Nobody wants to hear about positive behavioral reinforcement. Nobody wants to hear about these things, in spite of the fact that the data is in and the results have been spectacular. They still want to marginalize those programs and continue to tell you that ABA is the only thing that works. You want to know why? Because person centered planning is not rolling in the millions of dollars into the coffers of the medical model year after year. Positive behavioral reinforcement is not bringing in the billions of dollars in donations like places like Autism Speaks get out of fear mongering every single April. Okay? We are largely, as a group, ignored, and that's at best when we are not openly ridiculed, demonized, and vilified. Okay? And when those don't work and we actually get a few people to listen to us, that's when they start threatening us and our families and try to dox us. If you followed me for the JD versus AH, this should sound extremely familiar to you. What we are learning here this morning is the cult like mentality of those who tote ABA. We are talking about the very base of the premise of looking at the individuals that are forced into this form of therapy as individuals who are subhuman, individuals who should not be given any form of voice unless it toes the party line. We're talking about individuals that will actively suppress any other form of treatment program out there, even when we have the results and data to back it up. We're talking people who will willfully spread propaganda of the meltdowns of kids in order to silence us with the all demeaning and ever high voiced, "You're not like my child." No, Karen, I'm pushing 40. But when I was your child's age, I was your child. And we're going to close out on that, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll be talking to you again here in a minute.